Jared Kushner's name has been surrounded by speculation and mystery in recent years. But what hides behind this discreet and at the same time powerful figure? For some, he is just a successful businessman and an efficient political strategist. For others, he represents something much more sinister, a figure that fits eerily with the prophetic descriptions of the Antichrist. Could it be that biblical prophecies were pointing to someone like Kushner this whole time? And what about his actions that seem carefully calculated to shape the future of global geopolitics? The idea that he could be the Antichrist is not a new theory, but evidence that has emerged over the years continues to fuel this narrative. From its involvement in historic peace agreements to its connection with enigmatic symbols, such as the building on Fifth Avenue with the number 666, everything seems to fit into a plot that many would prefer to believe is just fiction. But is it? The truth is that we are living in times of great transformation, and the 2030 Agenda, with its promises of a more sustainable future, appears to be part of a larger plan, one that could reveal who is really in control. If Kushner is, in fact, the Antichrist, as some claim, then all we are seeing now are pieces of a puzzle that is still being put together. Imagine a leader who emerges as a peacemaker, someone who brings hope and prosperity, but who slowly reveals his true intentions. This is the picture painted by biblical prophecies, and many believe it suits Kushner perfectly. The question that remains is, are we prepared for what will come? Because if he is who they say, 2030 will not just be a year of change, but the milestone of a new era that will transform the world as we know it. This is a discussion that requires reflection and attention to detail. The clues are out there, scattered and camouflaged in actions and speeches. But are you aware enough to notice? Let's explore this idea, and perhaps in the end, we will have a clearer idea of what is behind this enigmatic and intriguing figure. And if this isn't all just a coincidence, maybe there's still time to understand and act before it's too late. It is fascinating how over the centuries the identity of the Antichrist has been the subject of so much speculation. In recent years, a figure who has gained prominence in this debate is Jared Kushner. Many wonder if he could be this enigmatic character prophesied in the scriptures. Why? Well, let's see. Kushner is an influential man, with access to strategic positions of power, and has political and economic connections that few can achieve. It seems like a profile that fits the description of someone who could manipulate and influence global events. Don't you think? The Bible describes the Antichrist as someone who will emerge with charisma and power to deceive many. And this is where the intriguing connections begin to emerge. Some people believe that certain traits mentioned in biblical prophecies point directly to individuals like Kushner. To begin with, the image of a charismatic leader, involved with peace agreements, someone who promotes an environment of stability, is something that many associate with the figure of the Antichrist. Does this sound familiar? Kushner has already demonstrated an ability to articulate and influence complex political agreements, which leaves many paying attention to his next steps. It appears he possesses the charisma and cunning that an Antichrist would need, at least according to some interpretations. Of course, saying that Jared Kushner is the Antichrist may sound alarmist to some, but the coincidences are too many to ignore. People point to biblical prophecies that suggest the Antichrist will be someone who appears in a position of global authority, attracting a kind of fascination from the masses. And there is Kushner with his carefully constructed image, always present at summit meetings and international negotiations. Was he a figure of power destined to be remembered by a sinister influence? We don't know yet, but it is something that arouses curiosity and fears in many. Some critics claim that this is all a conspiracy theory. However, for those who study biblical prophecy, these connections are signs that cannot be underestimated. And it wouldn't be the first time that something that seemed conspiratorial turned out to be true, right? The Bible itself says that the Antichrist would deceive many, and perhaps the subtlety of his actions is exactly what makes him go unnoticed by so many. But can we ignore all these signs? It seems not, and that's where we enter even more complex terrain, leading us to the next point. One of the aspects that most raise suspicions about Jared Kushner is his direct involvement in one of the most historic peace agreements in recent times. Few leaders have managed to achieve something similar, a peace agreement between Israel and Palestine. And yet, Kushner was at the center of negotiations that brought significant changes to the region. For many scholars of biblical prophecies, the Antichrist will be a mediator, A peacemaker who will arrive bringing the promise of harmony, but who, deep down, hides dark intentions. Kushner's performance in the negotiations is what puts him in a special spotlight, arousing both admiration and distrust. The role he played was seen by some as a positive, almost miraculous milestone. After all, history has repeatedly shown us how difficult, unstable, and ephemeral peace agreements in that region are. So how has someone like Kushner managed to succeed where so many others have failed? For many, this is a testament to his diplomatic talent. For others, an indication that greater forces are at play. After all, the scriptures indicate that the Antichrist will come as a leader who will bring false peace. Could Kushner be paving the way for something bigger and darker to come? It is not just a question of international politics. The way he positions himself on the global stage, always calm, well-articulated and willing to offer solutions, is exactly how many imagine the Antichrist would present himself. The Bible suggests that this leader will deceive even the wisest, and perhaps this peace agreement is just one piece on the board of a much larger game. If we look closer, we could see the construction of a narrative where peace is used as a disguise, something to attract global trust and support. And isn't that how the greatest strategists act, using what appears to be a benefit to hide their true intentions? So that you can understand more clearly and quickly the signs that surround us in challenging times like the ones we are living in, it is essential to be aware of the prophecies that are being fulfilled. Many still don't realize the magnitude of what is happening around us, and that's why I decided to offer something special to all channel subscribers, an exclusive digital ebook titled The Secret Behind the Holy Bible. This book is an unmissable opportunity to access impactful revelations about biblical prophecies that will open your eyes to current reality. Don't let this unique chance pass you by. The knowledge contained in this ebook could change the way you see events around you. The process to get your gift is quick and simple. Just click on the link available in the first pinned comment to download it immediately. But be careful, we only have a few units available, and they are running out quickly. Don't delay your decision. Guarantee your copy now before the ebook is taken down. Take advantage of this exclusive opportunity and be prepared for what's to come. The theory that the Antichrist would manifest himself through actions that appear beneficial, but have a hidden agenda, gains strength here. So biblical prophecies warn of a time of subtle deceptions, of leaders who will appear to bring light but are actually hiding darkness. Wouldn't this be the case with JARED Kushner? Even though we cannot say for sure, his participation in the peace agreement has already raised many alarm bells. And as everything seems to come together in an almost orchestrated way, it's natural for us to wonder what else is behind these apparently altruistic actions. But there are other, even more intriguing details to consider, leading us to the next point. For those who believe that JARED Kushner could be the Antichrist, there is one detail that draws a lot of attention: the famous building on 5th Avenue in New York where he has business. And what is the number of this building? Nothing less than 666. Yes, exactly the number that, in the numerology of the apocalypse, is associated with the beast. For many, this is not just a coincidence, but a clear symbol, a sign that something bigger is unfolding. After all, the number 666 has been the subject of speculation for centuries, and suddenly we see someone so influential directly linked to it. Doesn't seem like something we can just ignore, right? Of course, some might say it's just a matter of marketing or a random choice. But for those who take biblical prophecies seriously, nothing is by chance. The number 666 represents a system, an era, and a figure that will rule over all, and having a building with that iconic number is peculiar to say the least. Kushner's connection to this address is interpreted as an omen, an indication that he could be part of something much larger and more sinister. It is as if this building, located right in the heart of one of the world's financial centers, was marking a territory, a reference point for future events. And we can't forget how powerful symbols are. Throughout history, rulers and leaders have always used symbols to demonstrate authority and power. Ancient kings wore crowns, generals had flags, and today, even business people have symbols that carry hidden meanings. So is this number 666, linked to Kushner, just an unimportant coincidence? Or would it be a warning? A reminder that we need to pay more attention to the movements of those in strategic positions of influence. If it is true that the Antichrist would reveal himself through subtleties and symbols, this would be a sign impossible to ignore. This seemingly small detail makes many people more alert about Kushner's steps. He stands out, even when he tries to remain discreet, and it is this duality that raises so many suspicions. It's not just a number, but a whole context that leads us to believe that maybe, just maybe, there is something more behind this symbolic connection. And if there really is, then we are facing a plot that is just beginning to be unraveled. There are still many pieces of this puzzle to analyze, which leads us to reflect on even more subtle and intriguing characteristics of the possible Antichrist. When discussing the possibility of JARED Kushner being the Antichrist, an essential question arises: does he have the necessary characteristics for this role? According to biblical prophecies, the Antichrist will not just be an ordinary leader, but someone with a unique charisma, capable of captivating and influencing masses, projecting himself as a savior in times of crisis. When we look at Kushner, we see a profile that, despite being reserved, knows how to position itself. He has political connections that few have and, most importantly, an ability to articulate negotiations and alliances that seem unlikely. But does he already have everything needed to be this prophesied global figure? Currently, Kushner still does not demonstrate the full range of influence that Scripture describes for the Antichrist. However, this does not mean that he cannot develop these characteristics in the future. Let us remember that a leader's charisma does not appear out of nowhere. It is cultivated, built over time. Like past leaders who dominated hearts and minds through calculated words and gestures, Kushner may be just at the beginning of a process of ascension. He has time, resources, and most importantly, the ability to manipulate situations to his advantage, something that would perfectly fit the profile of a future Antichrist. Think about how historical figures managed to rise to power. They didn't appear overnight. It was a gradual work, a construction of image, a series of steps that led to the height of his influence. And in modern times, where communication is fast and digital, this rise can happen even faster. Kushner has already demonstrated that he has control over his public image, always calculating what and how should be shown. This is typical of someone who understands the power of perceptions, and it's not hard to imagine how this ability can be shaped for even greater global influence, perhaps revealing your true intentions at the right time. The characteristics of the Antichrist described in biblical prophecies indicate someone who will have a global reach, who will dominate political, economic, and religious systems. While Kushner does not appear to meet all of these requirements at the moment, it is possible that he is laying the groundwork for this influence. It may seem like an exaggeration, but how many leaders in the past started out subtly, only to reveal themselves in overwhelming ways later? So while the world discusses, speculates, and watches, he continues to act behind the scenes, preparing the ground. And that leads us to look at what comes next, exploring how global events may be contributing to this possible rise. Technological control and digital surveillance are topics that arouse growing concern, especially when we look at the future predicted by biblical prophecies. And many believe that the Antichrist will use these tools to exert total domination over humanity. And this is where JARED Kushner enters the radar again. It is associated with projects that involve using technology to improve safety and efficiency, but is there more to it? The increasing digitalization of the world has enabled surveillance that was previously unthinkable, and some see this as the prelude to global control that will become absolute. What once seemed like science fiction is now reality. Facial recognition cameras, social media monitoring, and systems that track people's every move are common in many parts of the world. Any wonder who is behind this and for what purpose? Kushner, with his proximity to global leaders and technology companies, appears to be at the center of a network that facilitates these advances. And if the Antichrist will be someone who controls the world silently and efficiently, then nothing fits better than the use of technology for this purpose. After all, it's not difficult to imagine a scenario where technology not only connects, but also controls. There are those who say that these systems are for our good, to protect people and make everyday life easier. But what if this well-being is just an excuse for greater control? The Bible warns that the Antichrist will deceive many by presenting himself as a savior. And technology, which today is sold as a tool to unite and protect, could easily be transformed into a mechanism of domination. Think about how many times you've heard about the importance of digital privacy and how it has been slowly eroded. for those who see Kushner as a possible Antichrist. This centralization of data and information is a necessary step to ensure that, when the time comes, he can control everything and everyone. In a world where every move is monitored and every choice is tracked, absolute control stops being a distant theory and becomes a frighteningly real possibility. With the 2030 agenda setting goals for a more sustainable and connected future, it's easy to see how technology can be used to facilitate this plan. But is this connected future really for our benefit? Or are we heading towards an era of total control, where a single leader will decide the fate of all? This is a question that leaves us with more questions than answers, but it makes us reflect deeply on the possible events that are to come and on how we should prepare ourselves for what seems to be the final outcome of a story that has been written for a long time. A long time. Don't forget to download our book, The Secret Behind Biblical Prophecies. There are already more than 500,000 copies sold and we are at the last units, so don't waste time and enjoy. I guarantee that you will acquire a lot of knowledge after reading this sensational book, written with great care and love for all the subscribers of our channel, completely based on the Holy Bible. The link is in the first pinned comment. Now that you know more about the speculation surrounding Jared Kushner and his possible connection to biblical prophecies, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Ignore it and wait to see what happens? Or seek to understand more deeply the signs that seem to be unfolding before us? And many prefer to believe that this is all just exaggeration, but the evidence continues to emerge one after another. And if we truly are on the cusp of a global transformation, where a central leader will take control, wouldn't it be wise to be prepared? The point is, if Kushner really is the Antichrist, he is playing a long game where every move is carefully planned. And are you paying attention to the pieces that are being moved? Or will he wait until the last piece falls, and then it will be too late to react? What do you think is behind peace agreements, seemingly harmless symbols and increasing digitalization that promises to unite the world? Biblical prophecies have warned about this type of figure, and if all of this is truly connected, then ignoring these signs could be costly. Now is the time to question, research, and prepare. Are we ready to live in a world where every step is monitored, where a single leader has the power to decide the fate of billions? History shows us that big changes don't happen overnight. They are built little by little, piece by piece, until the complete plan is assembled. And maybe that's what we're seeing now. A plan that will extend until 2030 and beyond. So what do you think? Do you think these coincidences are just that, coincidences? Or do you believe that there is a deeper plot that is slowly revealing itself? Leave your opinion and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way you will continue to receive more information about this and other intriguing topics that can change the way you see the world. Don't settle for the superficial. Go deeper, question, and prepare for what the future may hold. After all, sometimes the answers we seek are hidden right in front of us, waiting for someone to see them clearly.